another hand for Dr. Kay Stonefeld and the Fredonia drummers. For those of you who weren't aware, they led a procession from Gregory Hall on campus all the way down Temple Street here to the Opera House. And I know there were some people who marched with them. Raise your hand if you were marching behind them. Yay, I can't see you all, but. Good evening, I'm Rick Davis. I'm Executive Director of the 1891 Fredonia Opera House, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here this evening. These seats that you are sitting in, as many of you probably already know, this building that we are in occupies the site of what was once the Fredonia Academy, which at the time was one of the area's first institutions of a learning beyond the common school, a form of higher education. And it was what made the way for what we're here celebrating tonight, which was the creation of the Fredonia Normal School and later the State University of New York at Fredonia, and the village of Fredonia's acceptance and welcoming of those institutions. So it seems somewhat fitting that you're all sitting here tonight. We're pleased that you're here. We have a wonderful program for you. And to kick things off, I'd like to introduce the president of the State University of New York at Fredonia, Dr. Virginia Horvath.
Thank you, Rick. Good evening. I'm proud to serve as the 13th president of the State University of New York at Fredonia, and I begin my remarks with a lot of thank yous. First, to everyone who is involved in planning tonight's program as we celebrate Founders Day for the second time, establishing a tradition here that I hope will continue because it celebrates the relationship that the college, or all the other names it's had, with the village of Fredonia and its people. Thank you to those drummers who led the march from campus to this 1891 Fredonia Opera House. As Rick mentioned, this is the site, the land that the Fredonia Academy once sat on. It was a private institution founded in 1826 and began the idea of having post-secondary education in our community. Last year, in our first Founders Day, we marked 150 years since the citizens of Fredonia committed their time and their money to convince New York State to have a state college here. And we celebrated the long history of that relationship between the village and the higher educational institution in Fredonia. I want to start by thanking Sam Dreo Jr. for his Dunkirk Observatory story several years ago that inspired that celebration last year of the first conversations about founding an institution here in 1867, and then actually founding the institution and building that. And Sam has generously printed up reprints of that article, A College is Born, that had been printed in the Dunkirk Observer. So thank you for doing that. He is asking if you'd like to take a copy of this for a $3 donation that he will give to the Chautauqua County Rural Ministry. That's very generous of you, and I hope you take and read a copy of his story, A College is Born, because it really gave us the idea for having a Founders Day. Thank you as well to the Village of Fredonia and Town of Pomfret historians and the librarians and archivists at the college who preserved the story of our founding. This year we focus on two historic figures who had important roles in the village and on campus, Reuben Fenton and Juliet Rausch, whose brief biographies are included in your program. Thank you to Dean Ralph Blasting for developing the script of a fictional meeting between these characters, and to Professor Kay Stonefeld, who along with Ralph Blasting is the co-producer of tonight's program. Will you join me in thanking them? You'll see that performance in a few minutes. Thank you to the actors who will bring these characters to life, and to the singers and musicians who will share songs and jazz from the eras of Reuben Fenton and Juliet Rausch. We thought in an opera house we should celebrate the musical traditions associated with the history. So thank you, Dr. Kate Levy and the New Horizons Dixieland Band, to Mr. Todd Langworthy and Miss Alicia Travis Doherty for the short film you'll see, and to all the members of the Planning Committee whose names are listed on the back of your program. I also want to mention in particular Aaron Amon, our designer on campus, who designed the pins that you are, I hope, wearing when you leave here celebrating Founders Day, as well as the program and some of the posters that you see. And thank you to the staff of the President's Office, particularly Mrs. Denise Shalkowski and Mrs. Dawn Hunt, who worked to create many of the arrangements for tonight. So thank you to all of them. Since the time that the cornerstone was laid for the Fredonia Normal School, enshrining the hopes of a proud community, much has happened in Fredonia's story. Those of you who marched from campus today left Gregory Hall, one of the first buildings on the new campus, and at the corner of Temple and Central, you passed the building that had been home to the Normal School and was later called Old Main. And you came to the Village Hall and this beautiful, historic opera house built on the land where the former Fredonia Academy once stood. I hope for those who marched and those who drive those paths a lot, you have a sense of pride in what this community has done to create opportunities for students to learn. And I hope the students who are here and members of the campus community that you come to this opera house often for films, concerts, and lectures. This opera house is a treasure in our community and part of the learning environment for all. Thank you to Mr. Rick Davis for hosting this event here. Let's thank him. In your program, there's a brief timeline that tells a few of the important moments in our institution's history. And the rest of the story is as interesting as the founding of the college that's now known as the State University of New York at Fredonia. In the 1930s, when the land on Central Avenue was purchased by the state for future expansion, plans were well in place to expand the academic offerings as well as the physical space. Instead of awarding teaching certificates alone, the campus could award baccalaureate degrees for the first time. By 1948, when the SUNY system, the State University of New York system, was created, Fredonia was recognized not only as one of the 11 teachers' colleges in the system, but as an institution with the potential for what was described as, quote, the theme of our ambition, in Ira H. Wilson's letter as he advocated for the state to establish a college here in the 1860s. With the addition of dormitories, Gregory Hall, Alumni Hall, and all the others, there was room on campus for the women who had formerly lived in houses in the community, such as the home on Central Avenue, now known as the Edwards Waterhouse Inn. There was room for the men who had attended Fredonia on the GI Bill and first stayed in barracks on campus. In the 1960s and 1970s, as the master plan by I.M. Pei and Partners was guiding a time of significant construction on campus, the vision of the founders to have strong academic programs beyond teaching certificates was also becoming reality. Under the leadership of Oscar Lanford and with state investments directed by then-Governor Nelson Rockefeller, faculty were hired to develop and deliver programs in the sciences, social sciences, and humanities. The roots of our institution, with commitments to providing quality teacher preparation programs and programs in music, expanded to include arts programming in theater, visual arts, and dance. Under the leadership of Presidents Dallas Beal, Donald McPhee, and Dennis Hefner, the remarkable growth continued. What we now have, the inheritance of all these investments, includes 256 acres, more than 2.3 million square feet of facility space. The most recent additions to the campus are the Science Center, which opened in 2014, and the studio complex added to the Rockefeller Arts Center, which opened in 2016. Our College Lodge, dating from 1939, has another 200 acres of land, including forest, trails, and event space. The Fredonia Technology Incubator in Dunkirk was established in 2007 to assist in the economic development of our region and connect the intellectual work of the university with the community. The university does have a positive economic impact on the region, bringing more than $200 million each year to our area. Now we have over 900 employees on campus, about half of whom are faculty members, who are actively engaged in research and creative activity and committed to the education and ultimately the success of 4,687 students enrolled this semester. We now offer 80 undergraduate degree programs, 22 graduate programs, 6 advanced certificates, and 54 academic minors. Although students come to Fredonia from across New York State and many other countries, hundreds of students each year complete internships right here in Chautauqua County and the region, and they study abroad around the world. Recognized in 2014 with the Carnegie Community Engagement Classification and appearing every year on the President's Higher Education Community Service Honor Roll, Fredonia has students volunteer more than 25,000 hours of community service last year. Services to students include now academic support areas, students with disability services, campus life, residence life, financial aid, a counseling center, and a health center. And we field 18 teams competing in NCAA Division III athletics. In addition to the historic strengths of programs in education, music, theater, and later in the natural and social sciences, Fredonia has added many distinctive and well-recognized academic programs: molecular biology, sound recording technology, music industry, public relations, digital television and film, radio production, animation and illustration, computer and information technology, environmental sciences, international studies, criminal justice. All of them are based on the strong foundations in English, history, philosophy, foreign languages, mathematical sciences, the characteristics of a liberal arts education. The faculty are known for their dedication to students, and they're involving students in their research and creative activity. Last year alone, the impact of Fredonia Faculty Scholarship was impressive. 331 publications, over 500 creative works produced, almost 400 presentations at professional meetings around the world, all starting from a little campus that the villagers of Fredonia wanted to have here. Our academic programs are accredited not only by Middle States, but specialized accrediting bodies in music, education, theater, visual arts, communication disorders and sciences, business, and social work. Those founders, with their dreams of, quote, the promotion of arts and sciences for the mutual benefit of ourselves and our posterity, end quote, would certainly be pleased with the return on their investment. So we're here today not just to brag, although I can't help it, but to say thank you to the people, those today and those from the 1860s and forward of the village of Fredonia. The campus that has been home to many thousands of graduates over the years would not exist were it not for those who in 1826 founded the Fredonia Academy and established the idea that this could be a place for learning beyond the common curriculum, and those who in 1867 cheerfully donated $100,000 of their own money to build an institution on their own terms. They found an opportunity within New York State and relentlessly pursued it. They challenged New York State to respect their commitment to a full academic college. We would not be here today without their dreams and their investments. So on behalf of a grateful campus that values our partnership with this community, thank you. And now it's my pleasure to present Dr. Athanasia Landis, Mayor of the Village of Fredonia, who will offer her own welcome and remarks. Dr. Landis.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Well, I am Athanasia Landis, and as the proud mayor of the village of Fredonia, it is my great pleasure and indeed my honor to welcome you to this second annual Founders Day celebration. The fact that this celebration takes place inside this beautiful hall, Fredonia's own Opera House, makes the honor even greater as it marks the site where the Fredonia Academy was located. I'm going to take a chance and be repetitive because I can't help myself. In 1826, the Fredonia Academy was the only place of higher education in Western New York, and Fredonians were very proud of that. The Academy had educated many during its active years, Governor Reuben E. Fenton amongst them. However, in 1866, that venerable school closed its doors because of low enrollment and financial difficulties caused by the Civil War. Coincidentally, at around the same time, March of 1866, the state of New York announced its intention to entertain proposals from any community within the state for the establishment of state normal and teachers training schools. The state created a committee to review the applications and determine which 4 places were worthy of the state college. It was an opportunity that the people of the village were waiting for, as they never gave up on their desire to have a higher education school. However, that opportunity had a condition, and the condition was that if Fredonia's proposal was accepted, the village will be responsible for obtaining the land as well as paying for construction and furnishings. It was Friday, November the 16th, 1866. With the support of 90% of the village taxpayers, the Board of Trustees unanimously approved a resolution to appropriate enough money to be raised by taxation for the purpose of having a state normal school. Fredonia's commitment was the largest made by any of the competing communities and amounted to 10% of the village's total assessed valuation. I'm not sure if it was today it was going to be enough to get the money. On Thursday, August the 8th, 1867, the state of New York selected the village of Fredonia as the site for one of 4 normal and teachers training schools with academic departments. Over the next 20 years, the village taxpayers faithfully paid the bonds with 7% interest. As they say, the rest is history. Since 1867, the college has educated hundreds of thousands of young people. As it grew, so did our pride, confidence, and dreams. Throughout the years, the village of Fredonia has supported the school by welcoming those young people at arguably one of the most challenging points as they were about to enter their adult life. It is a time of promise and opportunity, but also apprehension and sometimes fear. It has been a successful relationship that we very much desire and expect to continue and grow. I was born and raised in a university city, went to school in that one, and then another. And now I'm the mayor of one. I can tell you from experience, there is nothing like it. A university is not only a center for knowledge, but also a place of lively controversy where scholars are involved in scientific, political, and social disputes. A university town with its high concentration of culture and arts is also a place full of laughter and noise, joy and disappointment, life. It is a place where young people come to learn and sometimes test their limits. I read last year, and I said that I think, that 2 of the toughest jobs in the country are university president and mayor. President Horvath, here's to another great year. As I conclude, I want to recognize and honor the visionary group of people who founded the university based on their belief that their village ought to have one. Leading those visionaries were mayors Thomas Higgins and Addison Cushing. Also, trustees Oscar Johnson, S.S. Pratt, C.M. Ball, and Nelson Palmer. Their foresight and belief in education has benefited many generations of students, and their legacy is embedded in the DNA of today's university. I want also to thank you from the bottom of my heart and express my appreciation to President Horvath and everyone who was involved in making the program and making all this celebration tonight possible. This is going to be a great evening. Enjoy.
Thank you, Mayor Landis. When we had this program last year, we said what we thought would be really enriching for our ceremony would be to involve younger people, not even college age, from the community. And there are a few people I want to thank for that. We had a coloring contest, and we will present the prizes for those who won that. Their work is out in the hall, and I'm happy to say one brought me an additional picture today that will be a treasure for me. We also talked about ways to engage students in middle school and high school, and someone I want to thank for that, he's not coming to the podium, is Mr. Patrick Newell. I have no idea where you are, but please give applause to Patrick Newell, who is a teacher at Fredonia High School. What we decided to do to honor Sam Drayo's legacy is to create an award, the Sam L. Drayo Award, that we will give beginning next year to someone who writes an essay or submits written work that we want to honor, and we will have that award to present next year. So I'm very proud and excited to announce that and to thank Patrick for the work he has done and will do to get us competitors in that award. And now I would like to announce the two winners who are here tonight from our coloring contest. The first is from our age group of 3 to 6 years old, and the winner is Pearl Olrogue. Please come forward, Pearl. She's 6 years old, so give her a nice welcome. And for the 7 to 10-year-old age group, the winner is Isabella Horowitz. Ella is 8.5 years old. Please come forward, Ella. Thank you. Thank you to all who encouraged or colored in that contest. And those of you who know budding writers, please know that next year there will be an opportunity for them as well. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the historian for the town of Pomfret, Mr. Todd Langworthy, who will introduce the film we have for you tonight.
Good evening, and thank you very much, Dr. Horvath. I appreciate very much the opportunity to be here tonight. I also very appreciative to be a part of the committee for this year's event. It was a wonderful experience, and I'm very grateful to be able to be a part of this wonderful evening that you're able to be here for as well. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the film that you're going to see. I would like to thank Alicia Travis Doherty, who could not be here tonight, who is the videographer who put this together, and a fellow Grange member like myself. And I met Alicia last year, and she wanted to get involved in community programs like this. So it was a perfect opportunity for her to share her skills as well and do something that I thought would be a great part of the program. So I really wanted to thank Alicia for that. She could not be here this evening, but she did a wonderful job, as you're about to see. When we talked as a committee and talked about the ideas for what we could include in the program, probably the first thing that really kind of came up was that we would love to share stories about the campus and the community, and that kind of interweaving almost that has existed for nearly 200 years here in Fredonia as a place of higher education. And the idea came up that if we could share stories from staff, alumni, faculty, community members, if we could share those stories, that would make the event that much better, because it's really the stories and those personal relationships that are made at the campus that really make Fredonia such a special place here for the thousands of people who have come through here, including myself, having 3 degrees from Fredonia myself and being an alumni. Thank you. So I really thought that this would be a great way for us to share some of these personal stories. And I do have one personal story that I'll share with you right now. One of the interviewees that you're going to see, after we were done with the filming, we were chatting and said, "So Todd, what's your story? Because I know you're an alumni, you must have a story." And the only story I really could think of at that time, well, Fredonia really is a special place for me because 30 years ago, it's where I met my wife, who is here this evening, my wife, Dr. Judy Langworthy. So there are lots of stories like that of these relationships, and I think you'll hear about many of them in the video that you're going to see. I also wanted to point out that this is just a small portion of those interviews that were done with the guests that are listed and described in your program. There will be a full-length video, director's cut, if you will, that will be available online on the Fredonia website as well. Shortly, that'll be available. And we'll keep adding to the materials as well that'll be on there for Founders Day. So make sure that you please check that out in the coming weeks and watch the full video that's over an hour long, as there was just way too much information for us to include in the program this evening. But what Alicia was able to do was to condense that into a shorter video and still kind of capture some of the memories that these very important people were able to share with us. And really like to thank all of our interviewees, some of which are here this evening, that thank you for taking the time to talk with me a little bit about your experiences, and we really appreciate able to share that this evening. So thank you so much, and I hope you did enjoy the video this evening. So many people had stories about the wonderful experiences here that I think that's one of the biggest things I take away, is that the wonderful people that have been a part of both the campus community and the village community, and how so many of the stories focused on that. I hope everyone at the Founders Day community celebration really enjoys these stories from so many years here at Fredonia.
It's a rich place, as you well know. The town, the campus, it has historic significance, and it's nice to be a part of that. I think the most fun I've had here, except for the interaction with students, which is every day and constant and wonderful. And by the way, I'm still in close touch with a good many of them, and they're great people, wonderful people. I think my most interesting and exciting experience here has been leading a singing group, a vocal group called the Catch Club. Catches are a 17th century English phenomenon. They're basically just rounds, complicated rounds, a little bit more than row, row, row your boat. And I remember when I came here to be interviewed, there was a rather formidable section going on with formal literary papers and so forth. I came in with my bunch, my singers from elsewhere, and we sang racy songs, and catches are for the most part racy songs, very ribald. And I remember the eyes going a little bit like this, and I wondered if maybe I had made a mistake. That was before I was here. I was still being sniffed, being checked out. But apparently Ribble songs went well, and I was happily hired and very happily, very contentedly here for all those years.
I worked for my parents on the side, and I had a car which made me very available to drive music students from the old Main down to what was the beginning of Mason Hall. We just had such a camaraderie, and it's been a part of my life ever since. And I'm grateful to Fredonia and the people and the education I had, because I've been all over the world.
This was Christmas time of 1966, 67. Went up to Brooks Hospital and went up to the second floor, and there was Professor McCune, and he was in bed. He had a book on his chest and his hands up, beautiful white wavy hair. And my father talked to him. I stood at the head of his bed. And my dad went out to the nurse's station to see how he was. And Professor McCune signaled me to come over to his bed. And he said, I want you to know, son, where your father started in life and how far he's gone in his life. And the reason for that is my father came here as an immigrant from Italy at 8 months of age and had no guidance. His father died when he was 4 years old. And it was Professor McCune who encouraged my dad to get a Regents diploma and to go on to school at Syracuse. And so if it wasn't for Professor McCune being a mentor to my father, who had no father, because his father died when he was 4 years old, my dad would have never gone to school, would have never become a lawyer. Professor McCune is part of the history of this college that should not be forgotten.
Well, I came to Fredonia in 1958 from Rochester, New York, as a freshman, very, very excited. And when I got here, I was, along with all the other incoming students, looking for my dorm. And it was a little difficult to find it at first, even though the campus wasn't that big, because my dorm didn't have a name. So for quite a while, it was referred to as the new dorm. And to the incoming freshmen, one of the most exciting things was when the semi would show up in front, because not only was it a new dorm, but there wasn't very much furniture in it. So every time the semi would pull up in front, we'd all say, well, I wonder what we're getting today. We started with, I think, a bed and a desk. And then little by little, everything else showed up. One day we'd get a mirror, and a few days later, we'd get a chair. And so that was, I mean, I have a lot of wonderful memories, but every time I go past Alumni Hall now, I think about that. And when I see a semi, I say, well, I wonder if they're delivering furniture.
When I first started here in 1956, the women had hours, the students had hours. By that I mean they had to be in 10 o'clock, I think it was at night, into their dorm rooms, and they couldn't go out afterwards. And it was very unusual for a campus of this size, especially, to have the female students not allowed to go out after hours, in quotes. And one of the things they really went after me for when I became dean of students was to get those hours relaxed so they could stay out and, be on 10 o'clock at night, which I guess was the time they had to be in. And I worked with them, and we had committees set up all around the campus with various female groups. And we checked with other campuses all over the country to see what they did hour-wise. And finally, I agreed to meet with all the women in the cafeteria, and in those days it was over here in Gregory Hall. And when I walked in, they all started singing "We Shall Overcome." And I always remember that, and I just, and all their voices, and it just overwhelmed me. But it was a very fun experience, and one that I probably will always remember.
We were asked if we would like to go, this little pickup team we had, and play a team in Buffalo. that was a thrill because we played a girls team at Buffalo State, and that was the closest I ever came to playing big time sports. Loved it all, but hooray for Title I for young people and young girls today that can play sports to their heart's content and even get scholarships to college for doing so.
We had a basketball tournament with 2 teams from Canada and 2 teams from the United States. And we had one of our celebrations, I don't know if it was the 100th or whatever year it was, but we decided to dribble the basketball from Ontario, Canada to Dodds Hall to start the game. And that was quite an undertaking because we had to include the government in Canada, the United States. We had to go across the Peace Bridge. It started in Ontario, Canada, and we had 2 students, a male and a female, and they dribbled the basketball. It never stopped from the time it started till the time it got to Dodds Hall. And it was quite an undertaking. We held up traffic at the Peace Bridge, and we weren't too popular for that. We had state police up in front, and Canadian police in the back, and they dribbled the basketball all the way through the Peace Bridge, over the Peace Bridge, down Route 5 into Dodds Hall, and we started the basketball tournament with that ball that they brought in to toss it up. And that was quite an occasion and a very memorable thing for our teams.
You know, as I look back, you know, we made the right decisions. We've had an orderly growth, and I look back really with pride at what we've accomplished here in Fredonia. And being a native, the changes is just fantastic. And I remember there was just one building there. This is all farmland, but I forget the name of the gentleman who preserved this land to become a college. And my 94-year-old brain can't bring the name back. But we're very proud of Fredonia. We're proud to have the campus here, and we just pray that it keeps going at the pace it's going, and all for the better.
I have so many memories. They're all fond, but I think the one thing is the overall climate of the college in those days. There were about 700 total students. I think there were about 180 in my class. It was like one big family. You knew certainly everybody in your class. You knew by name or sight most of the people on campus. And it was just 4 years of happy days.
At that time they were revamping Fenton Hall, and I was walking down past the president's office, was at 8th floor of Maidham, and all of a sudden Bob Kuhn waved at me and wanted me to go in. And his Dallas Beal at that time told me, "We are tired of finishing at the bottom of the SUNY conference." And I was elated because I'd been there 4 months, and the first time I'd ever talked to the president. He said, "We want to be better than we are." And Bob noted that, shook his head yes, and he says, "Do you think you can fix it?" And I said, "Yes, it can be fixed." And as a result of that conversation, that very short conversation, we got to be better in many sports. And I always said that was the turning point of athletics at Fredonia.
There was a performer coming into town whose name escapes me, which doesn't surprise me, but he was somebody that my wife and I had seen in New York City, and he was appearing here. and he's a French guy, and that doesn't make any difference. And she very much wanted to see it, and she was very ill. She died in 1962, and Harry Porter was our president at that time. And when he heard, he and his wife heard that we wouldn't, it was sold out, that we wouldn't be able to get in to see it, we got a call from Harry Porter's wife, and she brought over their 2 tickets. And we went down to Old Main and watched Maurice, what's the singer, or the comedian, anyway. And we had a wonderful, wonderful evening, and they didn't get to see it. And I've remembered that ever since. That's the kind of town and the kind of college that I've been involved with ever since. Thank you.
Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita, mi ritrovai per una selva oscura, che la dritta via era sparita. Midway through the journey of our lives, I found myself in a dark wood where the straight way was lost. Well, Mr. Dante Alighieri, I do seem to have lost my way. Where the devil am I?
Jacopo Peri, 1561 to 1635, inventor of the opera. His Eurydice being the first extant. Oh, this music history class will be the death of me. But I have to keep up the reputation of the class of 1930 to be the best ever. Now I just have to find my rehearsal room for the festival.
Well, this is most disturbing. I'll surely be late for my 3 o'clock board meeting. I remember setting the account books aside to read a bit of the Inferno. It must have drifted off. Perhaps I'm dreaming. Or maybe I really am on the road to hell.
Oh, I am so nervous. Dr. Davis will certainly show no mercy if I am late. But I seem to have come in at the wrong entrance and I've lost my way in this dark theater. Oh, excuse me, sir, I didn't see you there. I do beg your pardon.
Not at all, miss. I'm rather disoriented myself. I didn't know this was a theater building. In fact, I don't even remember how I got here. Are you perhaps some sort of entertainer dressed as you are in this provocative fashion?
Provocative? I hardly think so, sir.
Young lady, your ankles are clearly visible. If you're not some sort of actress or dancer, then what is your occupation?
I'm a student here at the college. The Fredonia Normal School. The Teachers' College. Oh, I suppose I will have to dress even more conservatively once I become a teacher. I graduate next year with the class of 1930.
I beg your pardon. I really must be dreaming. Did you say 1930?
Why, yes, sir. We are preparing now for the Western New York Music Festival. Dr. Howard Clark Davis directs the festival every year, and Dr. Harry King conducts the orchestra. The Dunkirk Observer says that it is one of the best music festivals in the whole of New York State. People come from miles around. Surely you have heard of it. Or are you a visitor here?
Please forgive me, I'm ordinarily much more composed. Allow me to introduce myself. Senator Reuben Fenton, at your service.
Oh my, a senator! Do you mean that you serve the federal government in Washington, D.C.?
I did, until my retirement from elected office, which is to say I lost my last election. After I graduated from the old Fredonia Academy, my so-called success was leaving Chautauqua County to represent us in the state legislature in Albany. How I then became governor and even United States senator, I'll never know. A delusion, perhaps, that our centers of government were places for honest debate and civic consciousness. But I am now content to run the first national bank in Jamestown. Indeed, the last place I remember being was in my office at the bank, reviewing some final reports.
An honor, sir. I am Miss Juliet Jacobson, Fredonia Normal School, class of 1930, studying piano and cello. I sing, too. But did you say governor? Could it be that you are Governor Reuben Fenton of New York? Why, we have learned all about you in our history courses here at the normal school. In fact, without you, there might not have been a normal school in Fredonia, for it was you who signed the first charter in 1867. But how can I be speaking to you now? I remember reading that you died at your desk in the bank in 1885.
Well, I don't remember dying, but then again, I've never met anybody who's dead, so I guess I don't really know how it works. What is this place we're in?
This is the Fredonia Opera House, built in 1891. Some of the best entertainers in America come here to perform. Every year, the festival brings musicians from all across the county to show that the hard-working people of Western New York have a love for the arts and the talent to make them too. Oh, I see someone beginning to practice now. Let's withdraw, Governor, and you can see what our Chautauquans are capable of.
Excellent, excellent. And where did this young man learn to play the pianoforte so well?
I am sure that he receives his lessons from one of the teachers here at the normal school. It is my dream to become a music teacher myself, graduating from the school that you have founded.
Yes, I remember the competition of 1867, when we asked communities across the state to send in applications for a normal school. Fredonia's was one of the best proposals, if I do say so myself, as a son of Chautauqua. I grew up in Mayville, you know. The citizens of Fredonia raised their own money to build a fine school building, and it became one of the first teachers' colleges in the state. Tell me, Miss Jacobson, has the building stood up well these past 50 years?
Well, yes and no. There was a terrible fire in 1900. 6 of the students died, along with the building's caretaker. It was devastating for the town, but they were determined to keep a college in Fredonia. They held classes wherever they could, and they brought their case to Albany, pleading with the state to help them rebuild, and they did. The new building on Temple Street is as beautiful as anything in Buffalo. You know, do you know, actually, there are 194 students graduating in the class of 1930.
But my faith was not misplaced. I knew that if the citizens of Fredonia got a college, they would cherish it forever. As Dante said, if you give people life, they will find their own way. There will always be times of plenty and times of scarcity, but I find that in the long run, faith and loyalty will always be stronger than wealth and power.
That is Miss Belladonna Trudalenti, the famous mezzo-soprano musician. By way of Buffalo. I hear she is wonderful, although a bit temperamental by reputation.
Jacobson. What is the world like now? Have things gotten better or worse in this new century?
Oh, Governor, that is such a difficult question for one as young as I. But I think, as in all ages, the answer is both. We have had many wonderful improvements in the past 50 years. Mr. Edison's electric lighting is much safer than gas, and beautiful too, as you can see. The new century has brought us horseless carriages, flying machines, and the telephone. And, of course, women may now vote in every state in the nation.
Women vote? Well, I'm not sure I would count that among the advancements of the age. The political system is highly complex, Miss Jacobson. Do you really think that a woman's nature is suited to making such decisions?
Well, Governor, the men who make the decisions now have just subjected us to a horrific war that involves most of the Western world. They called it the war to end all wars, but I am not confident this will prove to be true. Perhaps with women voting and even someday holding office, we might avoid some of the mistakes of the past.
I admire your idealism, Miss Jacobson, but my age has made me cynical. Petrarch, the great Renaissance humanist, once said that man has no greater enemy than himself.
Exactly, Governor Fenton. Perhaps we should see if the same holds true for women. I prefer Petrarch's more positive view. Where you are is of no moment, but only what you are doing there. It is not the place that ennobles you, but you, the place.
I see the normal school has taught you well, Miss Jacobson. You have studied your humanities.
Yes, but I hope I never lose my sense of fun and laughter as well. When I become a teacher, I hope to use music to show my students not only beauty, but also delight. A hiding mass is a glorious event, but a good vaudeville song could really lift the spirits.
They say I'm crazy, got no sense, but I don't care. They may or may not mean offense, but I don't care. You see, I'm sort of independent, of a clever race descendant. My star is on the ascendant, that's why I don't care. I don't care, I don't care what they may think of me. I'm happy, go lucky, and say that I'm plucky, so jolly and carefree. I don't care if I do get the mean and nasty stare. If I'm never successful, it won't be distressful, 'cause I don't care. Some people say I think I'm it, but I don't care. They say they don't like me a bit, but I don't care. 'Cause my good nature effervescing is what there is no distressing. My spirit there is no oppressing, just 'cause I don't care. I don't care, I don't care if people don't like me. I'll try to outlive it, I know I'll forgive it, and live contentedly. I don't care if people do not try to treat me fair. There's what can amaze me, dislike cannot faze me, 'cause I don't care.
Well, I'm not sure that's the type of thing to be enjoyed in mixed company, Miss Jacobson. But this is a new world that I don't fully understand. I suppose I'll have to believe that most change is for the better.
I agree completely. We can never know what the future has to hold. This strange encounter might only be a dream, but even if it is, I would like to say thank you, Governor Fenton, for the normal school in Fredonia. I hope it continues to grow into something that neither of us could now imagine. Who knows, maybe someday they'll name a building after you.
Perhaps. It would be an honor which I would not expect. But really, it should be people like you with their names on the walls. Those who are willing to bring science and literature, art and music to our youth. If I should dream into the future again, I'll look for your name alongside mine.
A music teacher from Jamestown with her name on a building. That really would be a dream. I have to find my rehearsal now. It was an honor, but I hope you find your way back.
Until we meet again, Miss Jacobson. Don't know where, don't know when.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Kate Levy, and I'm here to talk to you about this New Horizons group that's coming to the stage. New Horizons music programs provide entry points for music making for older adults, including those with no musical experience at all, and also those who were active in school music programs but have been inactive for a long period. Many years, in fact. The New Horizons concept originated near here in Rochester, New York in 1991 at the Eastman School of Music. The music education professor there, Dr. Roy Ernst, came up with the idea that older adults could enjoy learning to play an instrument or returning to instrument playing. Annual surveys from the National Endowment for the Arts tell us that 15 to 20% of high school students nationally participate in music. New Horizons serves the 80% of adults who missed that entry point, and also those who were part of school music making, but then went on with their professional lives and got away from music for so long that you tend to think, oh, I couldn't play that instrument again because I was too busy raising a family and working and being a doctor, a truck driver, a lawyer, a plumber. We have all those different professions, pilots, many teachers, nurses who play in our band. And when you get away from the instrument for so many years, you feel that you can't do it again. But because of Fredonia's students, our music students, those music students work as teachers to learn their craft while they're learning to become music educators. They're also teaching lessons and helping our New Horizons individuals come back to playing the instrument again or learn to play it for the very first time. I first learned about New Horizons when I was studying for my doctorate at the University of Iowa in 1994. Roy Ernst, who I said was at Eastman, received a grant from the National Association of Music Merchants to try the New Horizons concept in 4 other communities in different parts of the country, where he identified a strong university or school music center and a large and stable retired population. Iowa City, Iowa had both, and both Roy and the music education faculty at Iowa recruited all the graduate students, including me, to teach in this new program. Dr. Ernst told us this was going to be an exciting new vision for music professors, for people who were going to go out and be able to do community engagement as part of their teaching in the university setting. I didn't know this was possible, but I listened, and I tried teaching New Horizons. Some of my colleagues found it frustrating, but I loved it. I loved it. The idea that people who had stopped playing their instruments maybe in grade school or in middle school or who had never gotten around to playing band could pick up the instrument again and have a ball is so fulfilling for all of us, for them and for me. When I moved to Fredonia, well, I started a New Horizons band in Maryland first, and it's still going. But when I moved to Fredonia, I worked toward tenure. I didn't start a New Horizons band immediately, but I was interested in it, and it came up in my interview for the position. And I continued to be a New Horizons conductor at Chautauqua Institute at their annual New Horizons band camp. And by 2003, 2 community members came to me, Eric Kroon from Casadega, and Janet Stout from Angola. They were so determined to start a New Horizons band here based on their experiences at Chautauqua that they formed a startup committee, and they knew me from Chautauqua, but they said, you know, if you don't want to do it, Kate, that's okay, we'll find another conductor. I wasn't going to have that. So I met with them, and we started a startup committee. We met with the School of Music director, Carl Bolter, and with his support, we obtained a commitment from the School of Music and from the university to start not only New Horizons, but a whole musical journeys, community music effort within the School of Music. And we partnered with the New Horizons Band of Western New York. We rehearse on campus. Students and former teachers in the area who are part of our program, former music teachers, form the coaches, and we've grown from a band of 25 people in 2004 to 70 members now, from a band and lesson program that met twice a week to now more than 15 small ensembles, including African drumming, piano classes, ukulele, jazz ensemble, the Fredonia Blue Band, and tonight's Dixie Group. You all need to play some notes, don't you? Okay, could they have a little light back there? Oh, there they are. They made it. They have a little light back there, and you go ahead and warm up. I'll talk over you. It's cold on those instruments, and we need a moment. New Horizons is for people 50 years old and older who would like to return or begin playing an instrument. So now we have a band of more than 70 members, but in the winter, it's fewer because some of our folks fly south for the winter, if you know what I mean. And then we rise in the summer. We get some people who come north for the summer. So it works out a little bit. And this Dixie group is coached by Pauline Elmelson. She's a proud Fredonia School of Music alumna and also a retired band director from Westfield Academy and Central Schools. And there's one change from your program. We listed John Krustic, who's usually our tuba player, but he is not able to be with us this evening. So instead we have with us Jim Money on electric bass here from Fredonia. Please join me in welcoming Pauline Embelson and the New Horizons Dixie Group. That first tune was Ball in the Jack, and here comes Bill Belly. That was Dan Maselli on the trumpet. From Dunkirk. Our finale is Chinatown. And that was Linda Hudorovitz on the tenor sax.
How about another round of applause for all our performers tonight? Thank you all for coming, and if you'll join us on your way out, there are light refreshments in the lobby. Thank you.